Welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersects. We are glad that you are part of this growing community where we strive to help you strengthen your mindset, help you grow your assets, and help you achieve whatever level of success that you want for your life. Go to our website at Dr.Derrick, thesportsdr.com, where you can find all the latest content, and you can also follow us on our social media channels. Now, let's get into this episode. I'm Dr. Derrick Burgess. I'm a board-certified orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist. But outside of that, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a podcaster. I'm also a motivational speaker.
I can remember like it was yesterday, sitting in your seat, anxious and eager about the possibility of becoming a physician, but also having doubt and fear of did I really have what it took to be a physician. Now I better understand what affirmations are, and I do them with my children. We do them as a family, because I want them to understand that you have to speak life over yourself. Words are powerful, and if you're not telling yourself what you can do, you can't expect the world to have your back. I'm passionate about speaking because I feel that everybody has their own personal story. And many times when we're going through life, we will suffer and go through things in isolation. But I want to share my story to help motivate other people.
Dr. Derrick Burgess teaches with the same level of intensity and precision that he does in the surgical room. I just listened to his story, and it really impacted me.
Organizations bring me in to talk to their students, athletes, or employees, many times to help motivate them or help them to get clarity on what their goals are or what their dreams are. I want people to know that when they bring me in to work with their organization, they're getting someone who's very authentic, someone who's going to come in, listen to their problems, and be able to relate with their employees or their students.
Hey, I just got finished listening to Dr. Derrick Burgess give his testimony of overcoming adversity and life's challenges. It was an amazing testimony. Just hearing how he came from humble beginnings and just made an affirmation and set a dedication and a goal to just persevere through all the challenges, whether it be test taking or being one that was underrepresented and is still.
You're worried about this test, but I'm worried about your life. I'm worried about when are you going to do the therapy to fix your brokenness, to fix your self-control, to fix all the things that you need, because I have a blessing for you that I need you to be ready for. So I want to ask you today, are you worried more about being put back in the game or doing the work?
I'm Derrick Burgess, and I cannot wait to work with your organization, to be able to come in, to learn what your values are, and to help you reach your full potential. So welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. We have another very interesting guest for you today. I would like to welcome Dr. William Hill to the podcast. Dr. Hill, I have a fellow colleague today. So I have another sports medicine orthopedic surgeon that I'm welcoming to the podcast. Dr. Hill, he's actually completing his sports medicine fellowship at Southern California Orthopedic Institute. And I'll let him explain a little bit more to what being a fellow means. But welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you.
Dr. Burgess, thanks for having me. And it's an incredible honor and a privilege to share the pod with you. And so, like you said, I'm a sports medicine fellow. And what that entails is you go through your undergraduate training, you go through medical school, and then you match into a residency. And for me, that was orthopedic surgery. And then thereafter, 95% of people go on and do a fellowship to further specialize within orthopedics. And for me, that was sports medicine. And so a sports medicine fellowship is a year or 12 months in time. And that's an opportunity for you to further your exposure in sports medicine a multitude of ways. One, in sports coverage on the sideline, covering different sporting events. Secondly, getting a refinement of your arthroscopic and minimally open based reconstructive and restorative based procedures. With a high emphasis on minimally invasive and arthroscopic based techniques. And third, after taking care of patients on the field, surgically, also in the clinic, being able to diagnose different sports injuries and being able to treat them throughout the entire continuum of care. And so, depending on which program you're at, you may have different rotations where you follow around different surgeons that specialize maybe in shoulder, elbow, hip, knee, or foot and ankle, and you will be their assistant slash associate and understudy and apprentice during that time. And also during the year, you will do some level of research depending on what type of fellowship you're in. Some require more than others. So that research is based in sports-based injuries and techniques and biomechanics and anatomy. At the completion of fellowship, people move on to their first job. Some people even go on to subsequent fellowships, but I'll be moving on to my first job out of training. And so I think that's a quick overview of what fellowship is. And so it's a great time to also form bonds with your co-fellows if you are fortunate enough to have them, as they'll be your colleagues throughout the rest of your career.
So thank you for that overview. As you were talking, I started to reflect back. Like you mentioned, I still talk to my co-fellows now. We still run cases by each other. We still discuss things. Just, sometimes we're watching games and we'll see one of our old attendings on the field with Dr. Mark Galloway, who still takes care of the Bengals. So we still have a great bond. We still, going through that training, you have something special, especially during that 1 year. It's very rigorous. And, many times you focus on surgery, but when I look back, the thing that I took most from fellowship was, number one, how to properly diagnose injuries and properly treat injuries from a non-surgical standpoint, as well as how to rehab the athletes after surgery. Because from the residency training, I really remember evaluate and treat for physical therapy. Never really understood. They just go behind this veil, they see a therapist, and you hope they return to you in good shape. So didn't really understand the whole scope and spectrum of the rehabilitation process. And that's something I really got to dive deep into during my fellowship.
Yes, I agree. That is definitely a needed and one of those, I would say, underutilized and appreciated aspects of fellowship.
Yeah.
And so, fellowship is a refinement of if all things really sports medicine from a rehabilitation standpoint, you developing your algorithm or approach of how to rehab injuries. Also, you may be with 4 or 5 different attendings, maybe more, and they all do a certain procedure a different way. And so you take bits and pieces here and there, and you develop your way of how you want to do an ACL or a rotator cuff or meniscal repair, AC joint reconstruction, all those different things. And so that, and then also understanding the billing coding side and the business side of sports medicine and the relationship building and developing your team, I think is a big part as well. You go through all the schooling, all this training, but no one teaches you how do you hire and manage good people. They're the face really in the mouthpiece of your practice and of your business. People interface with them after they see your face and your name on the internet. They interface with them first. And so how do you, hire, and how do you manage, and, how do you train the right people? No one teaches you that. And so when you're done and you feel like you're going to walk into the same practice that your mentors had, but you have to know that was a process, and you have to know the right people. And so getting how they set up their rooms, how they set up their surgical preference cards. Because when you're done, it's all on you, and people are looking at you like, how do you want to do it, Dr. Hill? It's not done for you. And, like clockwork, you have to develop these things and think about it during the fellowship year. So I agree. It's so much more than just the surgery, the coverage, and, the patients in clinic. It's, really truly learning how to run a practice during that year.
Yeah, that's very important. So make sure you're taking notes, taking pictures of the OR setup, because when you go to the practice, especially if you're in a small town or in a community, or maybe even in a university, and you go to a different place, you don't just expect for everyone to know, because the first day you walk in, it's going to be, hey, Dr. Hill, what do you like? You're like, I don't know. What do you like? From your glove size to your glove type to how do you want to set up the room? How do you want to position the patient? What instruments do you like to use? These are all things that you never really had to think about before. But now you are that person in the room who has to make all the decisions, and everyone's looking towards you. That's even to get the case started, let alone when you're doing a procedure and everybody's just looking at you and you're trying to put the retractors in the right place and make sure everybody else have their hands and that they're doing the right thing. So it's a lot. And that's what you learn really as a fellow. And sometimes you don't really appreciate that. So I'm glad you brought it up until you're on your own.
It's a critical year, and a lot of people say it's your most enjoyable year of training, but it's probably the most important as well. Obviously, you have those foundational years in residency, but it really teaches you how to be, if you're a sports surgeon or a total joint surgeon or whatever your subspecialty is, it really teaches you how to hone in and really refine yourself as you prepare to go into practice.
Yeah. And, I would be remiss if I did not bring up the fact that you are a graduate of Howard University College of Medicine, like myself. I think we're about a decade apart, but both graduates of Howard University College of Medicine.
Yes. HU.
HU. All right. So let's talk about the business that you've started, Athletes Forever. And like you mentioned, you are a former college athlete at the University of Virginia. So just kind of talk about that full circle of being an athlete, now treating athletes.
Athlete Forever, really, the mission, vision, and purpose, the MVP of Athletes Forever is really to take care of the athlete for life. And so they can live their championship caliber life. And so it was birthed out of having time to reflect during the COVID pandemic. How was I fortunate enough to be in, a stable career in healthcare, but some of my colleagues, former teammates and friends, some of them, they weren't happy in their current situation and they wanted different. They wanted outcomes for themselves. And so I was thinking, how could I make the most impact for the most people? And that's where Athlete Forever came from. And so it was developing an app where it could support the athlete from the recruit all the way to their retiree phase, 70, 60, 80 years old. So that longitudinal life cycle from the recruit phase to the collegiate phase to the professional phase to the post-competing phase or retired athlete phase is really the kind of framework that is built upon. And it's a full circle platform or full circle life cycle because, as the recruits come in, they may lean on the college or professional athletes for mentorship. And then the college athletes may lean on the professional and retired athletes for mentorship and so forth and so on. And when you get to the retired athlete, now they're back in as a mentor. Or trying to hire these recent grads or giving internships opportunities to the college athletes. And so it's really creating a community or ecosystem for the athlete, by the athlete. And so within it, you have all the support services that they may have utilized while they were athletes. But, when you're done, all those resources really are no longer at your full disposal, such as the sports medicine physician, the sports agent, sports attorney, the sports mental health professional, the financial professional, the religious or spiritual professional, the nutritionist, dietitian, employers that want to hire athletes and former athletes. And so it's really built around the athlete to have them successful, not only when they're a successful athlete on the field, but when they're a successful athlete in their next career in the boardroom, when they're in the courtroom, as an attorney or in the clinic or 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 in the sales room, corporate America, or in the school if they're a teacher. And so really trying to create an infrastructure that really has never been there to really connect athletes to the professional services that can help them live a life that is championship quality and caliber. And so that's what Athlete Forever is. It's a social networking and professional networking platform. And so excited about it. It's growing, and we have probably about 600 active profiles that have been made to date. And so just growing.
You mentioned something very important. You talked about the resources. And as you're an active athlete, right? When you're in your career, you're at your college, you're at your professional team, there are many resources that you have access to, probably more so than you even really realize at the time until they're completely gone. And that sometimes they can be gone the next day when you leave the team or when you are not part of that organization anymore. So what I hear you saying is that you're trying to bridge that gap so that Athlete Forever, you should still be able to be supported and still have access to those same resources. Because for many people, when their career comes to an end, you don't really know what the next step will be. For you, you were able to go on to medical school, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about the end of your career and progressing to medical school. Was there time as a professional? Did you think you would be a professional athlete? So talk about that, and also just what athletes go through when they put down that ball for the last time.
You touched on it. You really, really expounded on it, and I touched on it a little bit, but that transition, organizations and institutions, teams, they don't prepare you for that. And that's really what Athlete Forever is doing. We're putting that transition at the forefront instead of at the end. Because if you are not prepared for it, you don't think about it, when that transition happens, you're behind the 8 ball. And guess what? You're going to go through the challenges, the struggles, that adjustment period that some people never recover from. And so we want to prevent that and, help ease that transition. And so for me, after UVA, I had an opportunity to move on to rookie minicamp with the Indianapolis Colts. But during that time, I participated and I wasn't extended a contract. And that was because essentially I failed my physical. I had an undisclosed heart condition come up after they did a battery of, EKGs, stress EKGs, stress echoes. And so I wasn't a high level draft pick. I was undrafted. I was invited to camp. I did well at camp, but I was undrafted. So they didn't want to take a risk on me. I saw a couple specialists. So from then it was like, you know what? Got to go back to education. I mean, I briefly, coached high school football. So I graduated December 2012, trained for, my pro day, which was in March, and started rookie minicamp in May and was done with the NFL by June. So I was there a month. From there, I went back and started coaching high school football. Then I was like, I have more to give. Being a high school coach and a teacher is great, but I know I had more to give. And so I went back to education. And so from there, I actually met a lady that was visiting DC at the time, and gave me a scholarship to come to Texas A&M for a graduate program. I got down there and I was like, it was a master's in agribusiness. My family's in farming. And so, I could pair some of my background in science. I graduated with a biology degree from UVA and, kind of do some innovative things in the agribusiness space and, maybe do some genetically modified or sustainable farming. But then when I got down there, I was like, I really don't want to do this. My calling is in medicine. So then I went to the pre-med office 2 days after I got down to Bryan College Station, Texas. That's actually where I met Matt, one of my good friends. And so then I just took post-bac classes that they said I needed to do in order to qualify for medical school. And from there, came back home to DC for the spring semester and finished up some of my post-bac stuff, applied for Masters of Public Health programs, did an accelerated, essentially 16-month Masters of Public Health during that year. So I applied to medical school during that spring semester in my post-bac and started an interview during my MPH year. And so for me, I didn't have time to not move on to the next thing. For me, it was, I had trained myself that sudden change, you got to react and adjust and, really move on to the next thing. And so I didn't have a chance, or I didn't allow myself really to get stuck. That's my transition. It wasn't easy, but I made it.
Are you a young physician who's frustrated in figuring out how you're going to continue to fund yourself through this early phase of your career? Are you tired of speaking to lenders who do not understand your plight? We have a solution for you. Let me introduce you to Doc2Doc Lending.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Zawadi Marshall, co-founder, CEO of Doc2Doc Lending. We are the exclusive lending partner for physicians and dentists in the United States. We underwrite our loans thoughtfully, knowing the physician journey and your career trajectory. We're a company that's been founded by doctors and built for doctors because we get it. Banks don't understand all the ways in which we struggle through educational debt, consumer debt, as we're trying to make ends meet during a very challenging time of our lives. Doc2Doc is underwritten with thoughtful process that's meant to give you credit for all the unique physician characteristics that you have, like being board certified, having a dual degree, undergoing and finishing a specialty or a fellowship as well, and just being employed as a physician. All of those things give you credit to get your interest rate lower with our platform.
So we are glad to partner with Doc2Doc Lending. So If you are stuck trying to figure out where you can get funding or where you can continue to support your family during this time of transition in your career, we offer you a solution. Doc2Doc Lending, physician owned, understands your plight, understands what it's like to be an early physician or a physician who wants to do something outside of medicine. Check out Doc2Doc Lending.
This segment is a paid advertisement for Doc2Doc Lending, Inc. Loans are made available by DR Bank, member FDIC, and are subject to credit approval and available in approved states only. Representative APRs for Doc2Doc range from 9.99% to 26.99%. Terms and conditions available at doc2doclending.com.
I want to sit on that a little bit because you said sudden change. And I know that's an athlete term, right? In the flow of the game, things are going to happen. You got to adjust and move on. And that's why you do so much training ahead of time and so much preparation ahead of time, because you have to be able to react. You can't just think about things. You have to react. So, finish college, you're headed to the pros, right? You're there for a month. You find out I have this heart condition. I failed my physical. So my dreams of being a professional athlete are over. You get an opportunity in agriculture, which is comfortable, right? That's the family business. But then you realize this is not for me. I have more that I need to do. So it's a lot of different layers to your decision, which I think is very interesting and a learning point for many different people, because you had to pivot several times to get to medical school. So I want to ask you, what was that? You walk in, you're a former athlete, you're in an agricultural master's program, and you walk into an advisor's office and say, hey, I want to go to med school. How did that conversation go?
It's actually very interesting because I know Miss Walt from Howard University. So
Yeah.
It was an African-American woman that was the head of pre-med counseling at Texas A&M. And she said, pull out your transcript from undergrad. And she literally walked me down saying, you need to take this class, you need to get this graded class. And she really took me under her wing. And so just fortunate enough to have someone that believed in me, which is, another topic, having someone that believes in you, even though the track record may not look like this person is qualified. And so really just having faith. Some people call it blind faith, but the way I approach life to this day is I have a vision of something, or something is burdened on my soul to do. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. And so it was really, she really, took me under her wing and helped me get out of that master's program within a week and get enrolled into some of the necessary prereqs that I needed to take. So I was fortunate.
Now I said, well, shout out to that advisor, because many times they crush your dreams when you come in, especially if you don't fit into a certain profile, an athlete, agriculture. This does not add up to medical school. So I'm glad that she supported you and really gave you a roadmap of how to get to where you need to be, a playbook, right? And you were able to follow the playbook. So that's beautiful. All right. So you mentioned when you have something, a vision, how you chase it. So let's pivot now to talk about currently what you're doing and what you're creating that's going on later on this summer.
So the recruit or the high school athlete is at the first phase of the life cycle of the athlete. And so thinking in order to get the most return on investment in getting the athletes into this ecosystem, the way to do that is to have something that highlights and honors them. And then I was doing research and looking, and there's not a award show that focus on youth and high school athletes. That's where the Youth Sports Awards came from. And that vision was about a year ago and been steadily building upon it. And so the Youth Sports Awards will take place July 15th in Los Angeles at the Brevard Theater on the campus of USC. And so we're really excited about it. And so not only does it highlight the youth athletes, it also highlights parents, other visionaries, and sports icons, and also philanthropists and sports medicine surgeons that have contributed so much to youth athletes and keeping them healthy and helping them recover from injuries if they have had them. And so it's a really cool and innovative way to get youth athletes excited about not only sport, but the next phase. And so at the mission of it also is not only to celebrate their athletic pursuits of excellence, but their academic and community and civic involvement as well. And so it's a great opportunity that we have. And from the sports medicine side of it, and when I say people, I mean surgeons are a little anxious because of the lawsuits that have happened and also the influx of NIL dollars. And so some people don't want to be team physicians for high-ranking teams because of that exposure or risk. But I also see this as an opportunity to bridge that divide. Instead of our athletes just seeing us in the clinic or the sideline or on the OR, it's an opportunity for us to invest in them and show that we care about them outside of the clinical setting, but we care about them having success on the field and in life. And so it has an opportunity to do a lot of different things. At the foundation of it, it's to help athletes be successful and to highlight what they've done and show them what they can do. And so we also have the first and only Transition Hall of Fame. We'll have our first class of inductees that have done great in athletics from a youth to college, some that were professional, that have now transitioned to successful careers outside of playing sport. And so I think that's also very exciting and looking forward to unveiling that as well.
Yeah, I applaud you for that vision. And, the first time that you mentioned it to me, I was like, that is very important. And it's something that's really that I'm not aware that has happened before either. I feel that the relationship is so key. Many times you have athletes that just kind of come in and go, but the athletes that you're able to really form a relationship or form a bond with outside of that injury setting, it can be a lifelong rewarding experience for both the athlete and for the physician. I mean, I have some athletes that I've treated 10 years ago that I still keep in touch with and that I've followed their careers and still involved in their lives in different ways, maybe mentorship or as an advisor or just somebody that you can trust to say, hey, I have this going on in my life. So the relationship is very key. And then also being able to acknowledge not only the athletic prowess, right? You can acknowledge the service in the community, the academic achievements of athletes, because many times athletes are put into a box of just be an athlete, the kind of shut up and play mentality that the athlete, you run fast, you jump high, but other than that, we don't want to hear your thoughts. So being able to recognize the athlete as a whole person, I think is very key. And I applaud you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Again, it's the foundational year, the inaugural year. And so we're excited about, getting this product out to market and building for subsequent and future years as it's just going to grow and help more people, touch more people, and impact more lives each and every year.
So how will these athletes be selected? Is it only from California? Is it only athletes in Los Angeles? How will you go about selecting which athletes will be awarded?
This year it's national. There's definitely representation from Southern California and Los Angeles, but it's national. And so the selection process was rigorous and competitive. There's so many great athletes, so many great stories that need to be told and heard. But future years, it's youth sports is global. And so we'll have representation globally in future years. And there's also conversations about maybe having a youth sports awards in every continent and having a global one, maybe a big global one as well. And so it's a concept and a product that is still evolving. But this year it's US based primarily. Its real mission is to be global. And so we're excited about it, and we want to help highlight and honor, the best and brightest, and also those whose stories need to be told and heard as well.
Yeah. So the vision that you have, I love the way that you're already thinking outside of not only national but global, because like you mentioned, we have athletes from all walks of life. Even in America, if you just kind of track people back home, you're going to probably have people from every continent at one school almost, especially some of these larger schools. So sports are global. And, I like the fact that you're already thinking on a global scale with the mission that you have in mind. So talk to us about, for people who might want to support what you have going on or who may want to attend in person, how do they do that?
Again, so it'll take place July 15th at the Brevard Theater. We have our website, youthsportsawards.net, that you can get more information about that. You can request tickets on the website as well. If you want to sponsor, partner, or collaborate this year's awards and subsequent, you can reach out that website as well. My contact information is there. You can find me on LinkedIn, William Hill, based in LA. You can reach out via Instagram at weareathletesforever.com. The Youth Sports Awards Instagram will be up shortly. And so we welcome all people that are interested in being a part of it, because it is greatly needed and impactful project that we are working on.
Well, congratulations again. And this platform will definitely provide more information. We'll put that in the show notes with the website. And as the date gets closer, we'll really publicize what you have going on. And hopefully we'll have a couple of members from the community be able to attend that live. So congratulations again.
Perfect. We look forward to it. And thank you for the opportunity just to share some space and time on your podcast.
Absolutely. So on Time Out with the Sports Doctor, this is your final timeout. So you are now a budding sports surgeon. You have 2 more months to finish up this fellowship and then start your career. And I'd imagine it's going to be one that's very fruitful for you. But let's talk because you mentioned sudden change. So you were presented with a sudden change, ending your athletic career, starting your professional student career, and then still pivoting because you said, hey, I want to go to medical school. So just talk to someone, this is graduation season. Many people are starting on their new trajectories, whatever it may be. It might be the job that you trained for years, or it might be you realizing that the field of study that I went into is not for me what I thought it would be, right? So just talk about that mentality and kind of support somebody who might be going through that transition now.
I would say that you have to go after what your vision, your MVP is. You have to go after what your mission, vision, and purpose is. And if that's something that others can't see, you still got to do it. And so, when I was doing my journey, really I was in stealth mode. People didn't even know I was in medical school until I graduated. And so it's one of those things that if you are burdened with something, to do it. If you see a vision, or if you know that what you're doing isn't what you're called to do, stop doing it and start working towards your calling and your mission. Because time is always of the essence, and you're going to be spending time doing whatever it is, right? It's either you're going to be spending time doing something you don't want to do, or spending time doing something that you're working towards and what you want to do. And so ultimately, go after it. Don't be deterred. Go after it with full faith, no fear. One of my favorite songs right now, and my kids' favorite songs, is by John Riddick, called No Fear. And so it's one of those things you have to trust in yourself more than anything else. And that self-confidence, self-belief will make your vision become a reality. And so a lot of people talk about, manifestation and affirmations, they're real. And so speaking life into your vision, your dreams, and if you put the work in, the universe and God, if you believe in a higher calling, will help fulfill those dreams and those prayers.
Now, that's beautiful. And that was your mic drop moment. Be your own MVP, your mission, your vision, and your purpose. Don't let yourself down. So thank you, Dr. Hill. That was beautiful. Like I mentioned, we are happy to support you on Time Out with the Sports Doctor. Can't wait to see what this first year of the Youth Sports Award ceremony will be. Hopefully, I'll be able to be there in attendance. It's on a Tuesday, but we might have to make it happen. You're going to have to send that private jet across the country for me. All right, man. Well, thank you for your time. I know you're at a conference. You might have seen people passing in the background as we did this interview. He's actually at a conference right now, but he took time and made time for what's most important, to try to push what his vision is and his purpose.
Thank you, Dr. Burgess.
Absolutely. Have a good evening.
Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Hey, time out with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine